Hey, welcome everybody. We're going to take one more minute before we get started. Welcome to about 3:01 or so. Get underway. All right. Welcome everybody to our 5 Steps to a 5 webinar on AP Human Geography. My name is Bob O'Sullivan. I'm the Associate Publisher of Test Prep at McGraw-Hill. And we're thrilled that you could join us. If those of you who are here live, thanks for coming and making the time. Those of you who are watching the recording, glad to see that this will work for you. I think this will be a terrific tool for you as you head toward test day. Before we get started, I just want to hit a couple of quick housekeeping points. That first of all, this is we welcome both teachers and students, but just so everybody knows, this is a student-focused review. If you're a student and you're working toward the test in May, this is the content that you will be most important to you. For teachers, please feel free to go back and share this with as many students as you want. We really want to get the word out there on the value of these webinars. Please feel free. I don't think we have a huge crowd today for this session. So throw questions into the chat or the Q&A feature as we go along. We'll do our best to monitor that and answer your questions as we go through. If you have the same question and someone's already asked it, just throw a thumbs up icon on there. That way we know. You can't see one another, but you should be able to see both Carol, Dr. Gillespie, and myself. You should be able to hear all of the panelists, and that includes Anya Kazores and Simone Serwer, who are part of our team here. We're not taking any student data for those of you teachers out there or students out there that are concerned about that. We do not collect any data at all for students on this, so those concerns are all good. We would urge you that to participate. The presentation is designed to be about 90 minutes long, and it has a number of questions throughout. I think at least some multiple choice questions and a number of free response. For the multiple choice, you'll see that we have a polling feature that we include. Please do participate. See if you can get the right answer. It makes it more fun, makes it more engaging for everybody, including yourself. And then most importantly, the session is being recorded. To access, if you want to really quickly take a picture of that with your phone, maybe that bit.ly URL at the bottom. I'll give you a few seconds, or you can jot it down. But that's where you'll be able to find the recording. It should be up on our site, our landing page, by tomorrow. Usually we're pretty good about getting them on the day after the session. If you haven't gotten it, we're going to get to it again at the end anyway. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it on over to Dr. Carol Gillespie. She's the author of our Human Geography book, our 5 Steps to a 5 book. She's going to cover some test-taking tips, advanced exam overview. She's going to share with you the stuff that she's picked up from the College Board through her experience working with the exam. She's going to go over some essential topics. And again, she's going to go through and solve the questions that are, or many of the questions that do appear in our book that she's chosen as particularly relevant at this time of year. We're already in March. So at that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gillespie.
Thank you so much, Bob. Hello, I'm glad you decided to join us today. My name's Dr. Carol Gillespie, and I've taught AP Human Geography since it was conceived and started by the College Board, both online and in the classroom. I've also had the great pleasure of serving as an AP Human Geography reader, as well as a leader at the meetings where the exams are scored. So what a wonderful experience that was. I've also created the AP Human Geography online curriculum for another company, Glenn Lyon, and I've written several books with cultural geography themes. So I love geography, and I'm glad you're in our course. AP Human Geography is a college level course that you're taking, and so we don't go too easy on you. Students have to cultivate their understanding of how to understand data and geographic analysis as you explore topics like patterns and processes and spatial organization and human impact on the environment and all kinds of changes in society that we're going through today.
Okay, so we're going to get into a couple test taking tips, right?
Yes, yes. First of all, a few comments on the structure of the exam. The exam consists of multiple choice questions, and there are 60 questions. You have 1 hour, so that's about a minute per question. And the multiple choice is half of your exam score. About 30 to 40% of the multiple choice questions will reference stimulus material. This could be maps, tables, charts, graphs, images, infographics, and landscape photos. And it's roughly evenly divided between quantitative and qualitative sources. The second part of the exam are free response questions. You will have 3 of those, and they are each worth 7 points. You have 1 hour and 15 minutes to answer these 3 questions, and this is 50% of your exam score as well. Now, each FRQ will give you a geographic situation or scenario and will assess your ability to describe, explain, and apply geographic concepts, processes, or models as you analyze geographic patterns and relationships and outcomes of applied contents. Now, the first question will always have no stimuli. It will simply be a question. And there will be 7 parts, A through G. The second question will have 1 stimuli that you will have to quickly analyze and decide what the answers for the 7 questions are based on that 1 stimuli. It could be a map, it could be an infographic, some sort of data or image, that sort of thing. And the third question will have 2 stimuli, data, images, and or maps. Now, what exactly is the exam on? What are we assessing with the exam? The exam assesses each of the 7 units of the course. And the weightings for the multiple choice part of the exam are shown below. You can see the 7 units covered. You're probably in agriculture right now. Maybe you're in unit 6 already. And you will see the breakdown. The only unit that is less than 12 to 17% of the score is the first one, thinking geographically. The rest of them are evenly weighted at 12 to 17% of the score. General test taking tips. Now, this you can guess if you're not sure of the correct answer. Always know there is no penalty for guessing on this exam. Do not leave a blank. Always rule out one answer that really is wrong, and then you have the rest of them to assess. Make a quick decision. If you're not sure, take a good educated guess and move on. Do not leave any blanks. Review the 2 units, the urban unit and the political geography unit, carefully. These are the last 2 units that are typically tested in the course. And they have many test questions on cities, city models, urban patterns, and on political processes. So really emphasize these 2 units in your exam review.
Mhm.
And be ready to explain on your FRQs. Do not just answer the question. Tell why that's the answer. Explain the degree to which something happens. Explain the limitations or the weaknesses of something. And explain a strength or advantage of something. So be prepared to answer and explain. Now we want to give you some College Board reader notes. And these are notes that I have gained through my experience as a College Board reader, but also the chief reader always gives us a review of the current year's exam. So I have some ideas here to share with you on things that you really need to know and how to study for the exam. Critical things for you to know. Really study the last 2 units, 6 and 7, which we've already talked about, the cities and urban land use and the political patterns and processes. Know your urban models. For example, last year's exam had FRQs on both of these units. Teachers teach these last, typically in the sequence, and they rush through sometimes because you know how it is at the end of the school year. You always fall a little bit behind. So you need to carefully review these on your own. The second thing I want to tell you is the FRQ explain questions. They need to be answered completely and always use a because in your response. Make sure to always use strong sentences that show cause and effect. Here's an example. The farmers live on volcanic slopes because it is the most fertile ground. Number 3, always read and then reread the question to be really sure what is being asked. It's really important to be able to know what the verb wants of you, and we'll talk about that in a little bit further. Also, be prepared to analyze the data given, then determine the relationships of that data to many geographic characteristics. Be ready to analyze and compare relationships and patterns. Understand and be able to talk about relationships and context and concepts at all scales, at the local scale, at the regional scale, at the national scale, and at the global scale. Know your world maps. I cannot emphasize this enough. Most students come into this course having had no geography experience prior. So you can go out on the internet and find wonderful interactive games on there that will test your knowledge and help you identify cities and mountains and land and seas and the oceans and countries and the capitals. You need that information to be successful. Also, write legibly. Readers want to give you as many points as possible, but if they can't read your handwriting, it's really tough. We are not handwriting experts, but I have seen readers pass exam books around and really try to find the points for you. So help them out, give them a break, write legibly.
Good tip.
Okay, in summary, thoroughly read the questions and carefully address the question asked. And this is important. Sometimes you rush to judgment in what is being asked simply because you think you know the right answer, and you may be better prepared to answer a question that you think is being asked, but reread the question and make sure that that is what they really want to know. Learn your models, your concepts, your theories first, and then learn to critique them. How are concepts related to each other in the real world? Learn geographic skills. Learn to analyze maps and charts and graphs. Don't just memorize facts and definitions. Ask yourself why and how questions. Don't panic or be rattled when you find words in the exam that you can't recall. Use the stimuli. Look at the map, look at the graph, look at the stem of the main question, and see if they give you a clue as to what the word means so you can correctly answer. And again, learn to identify regions and countries. This will really help you get a higher score. Use more because statements when you're asked to explain your response on the FRQs, and relate your response back to the prompt or the question being asked. Place yourself in the shoes of people you're writing about. This is important. People from other geographic locations and cultures do not always view the world in the same way that you do. Review the last 2 units. Once again, the 2021 exam had FRQs on both the city and urban land use and the industrial and economic development patterns and processes and the political processes. So a lot of teachers teach agricultural, they teach culture, and they love and they enjoy teaching this, but they may not give you as much time in these units that I've just mentioned here. So make sure you do the review for them, the exam yourself. Historically speaking, over the last 18 years, there have been more FRQs on the city unit, the urban unit, than on any other unit. The exam writers love to write questions about cities, so make sure that you really study that unit. Students traditionally have not scored well on that. Explain the degree. Now, what does that mean? That means you need to identify something and then explain the degree to which it affects something else. This is an advanced skill that you need to know. It will be tested often in the FRQs. Most students do not close the loop and do these 2 separate but connected parts of the question. Be prepared for the 3 variations of the verb explain. Explain the degree, explain a limitation or weakness, and explain a strength or advantage. Carefully and fully explain your reasoning. Don't just answer. Give your reasoning for your answer. Always approach a question objectively. Readers are looking for an understanding of the concepts. They are not really looking to find out how you personally feel about something. Be very objective. Read and reread the wording of the question. You need to make sure you understand what's being asked in order to answer effectively.
Those are great tips. Thank you, Carol.
Yes.
Oh, one last one.
One last tip. FRQ task verbs used. You'll run into these task verbs on the FRQs, and the first one is compare. Compare means to provide a description or explanation of similarities and or differences. Compare this to that. Define is simply to provide a meaning for a word or a concept. Give a definition. Describe means provide the relevant characteristics of a specified topic. So you're describing, you're giving at least 2 characteristics of a concept. Explain, we talked about already. Provide information about how or why a relationship, a process, pattern, position, or outcome occurs, using evidence and or reasoning. And identify, you indicate or provide information about a specified topic without elaborating or explaining. This is simply give some information, and that's it. Okay, here are some study recommendations that I have for you. Starting right now, if you want to start to study and review for the exam, I suggest you review the content sections in the review book that you've already covered in class. I also think you should form a study group to weekly and monthly have review sessions. I also think that practice writing the FRQs in the review books in your study group and discuss what you come up with. Use your geography review games on the internet to learn about regions and countries of the world. Now, if you have 4 weeks before the exam and you're going to start to review, so that's roughly, let's say, April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day, you're going to start to review for your May 4th exam. You take practice test 1, and what do you find out from the practice test what you know well. And then you know also what you're weak in, what you didn't quite understand. You can study the content areas and concepts where you're weak. Ask your teacher to explain things more also. Review all the key terms in each chapter of the guide and use geography review games again to learn the regions and countries of the world. Okay, maybe you only have 2 weeks before the exam to start your review. This happens. Take your practice test 2 and again, ask your teacher if there's a concept that you don't really understand, go ahead and ask her. Review the concepts, the models, and terms in the review guide. And again, go to the geography review games on the internet to identify countries, capitals, major landforms, bodies of water, etc. Now, what do we do the night before the exam? We relax, do something fun, get a good night's sleep, and go to bed early. If you're a breakfast person in the morning, get up and have breakfast. And just know that you have studied hard for 9 months and you're ready to go. You're ready to show everyone in the world how great a human geographer you are. Okay, some essential topics that that I feel are really essential for you to review are, the first one is cities. This is a crucial unit. I said it before, I'll say it again. Cities are tested heavily on the AP exam. Especially know the urban models. Burgess's concentric zone model always seems to show up in some fashion. Hoyt's sector model, Harris and Ullman's multiple nuclei model. Also know your foreign cities, the Latin American city model, the Southeast Asian city model, the European city model, and the African city model. Make sure you know those. Now, here's a tip to keep the first 3 models straight. The concentric zone model looks like concentric rings coming out from the center, the CBD. So this reminds me of the growth rings of a tree going out. The sector model reminds me of a pie cut in wedges. They start at the CBD and come out in pie-shaped wedges. And the multiple nuclei model reminds me of a yummy chocolate chip cookie. With each nucleus is a chocolate chip in the cookie. I'd also suggest you know Kristoller's central place theory and the idea that people gather together in cities to share goods and ideas. Therefore, the central place exists mainly to provide goods and services to the surrounding population, the hinterland, and functions as a distribution center. People will always buy a good in the nearest place that offers that good. So those are just some things about cities you should make sure and know. The next essential topic is political space. Know boundaries. There are many kinds of boundaries, antecedent and different types of boundaries to know, but also different shapes of countries and how that governs, the shape of the country governs how the political, the economic, the communication, the transportation, everything about the country it has an impact on. Know your cultural boundaries. Know what frontiers are out there in the world today. The countries of the world are called states. They were political units. Their boundaries change constantly. Know about associations. Know about alliances and concerns. Countries are subject to forces that unify. Those are called centripetal forces, and also units that divide, and they are centrifugal forces. So a good tip to remember to sort these out is centripetal reminds me of the petals of a flower that unite at the center of the flower and then come out from the center. And this reminds me of, for example, nationalism, love of country. We have these beautiful petals of the flower, and they all come into the center and form a beautiful whole. Even war, unfortunately, unites a country many times against a common enemy. National holidays, singing the national anthem, pledging allegiance to the flag, these are things that strengthen a country and are centripetal petal, okay? Centrifugal forces, on the other hand, are like a centrifuge. And if you ever work in a lab, and I used to a little bit in high school, we would put things in centrifuges and they would spin out according to their specific gravity. You put blood in a centrifuge and it separates those different elements out in their different parts. Well, centrifugal forces separate, they divide, and separatist groups fighting for their own say in the government, religious groups that have differences, poor communication systems are all divisive things, divisive for the whole good of the country. Distrust of the government is a centrifugal force. So just remember to know the centripetal and centrifugal forces, because you're going to see this on the exam. And be sure you understand those and can give examples and specific details based on the political, cultural, and economic impacts of both of those types of forces. And next we have the essential topic 3, which is population. And you want to understand the difference between population density and distribution and migration. You want to know and think about why people are spread out unevenly in the world. What are the factors that lead to that? Know the difference between the crude birth rate and the total fertility rate. Why can a country with a high fertility rate still have a low crude birth rate? Hint, most of the population could be male or very old or very young and not reproductive age females. Okay, so you need to know those things. You need to know about the demographic transition model, the 5 different stages, and be able to apply that. There are always questions on this in the, maybe not the FRQs as much, but in multiple choice questions. And if you say a country is in stage 4, you want to be able to find the right answer for why they are and know those ramifications. Know your push and pull factors of migration and how place utility factors in on why people move. You want to know the life course theory of migration, that when people change occupation or education, these are many times why they move, to get a job or to get a better job. Maybe they get married or divorced or they have children. These are life course changes that lead to them migrating. And know the human capital theory of migration. where educated workers migrate to wealthier countries to get better paying jobs. We've seen people from India move into our area, and they are very skilled and highly educated and live in the very best, most beautiful homes because of that. And they have moved here to this country because of the high pay that they will receive. Capital-rich countries get talented workers, and labor-rich countries get the capital as workers send remittances or checks back to their families in the back home. So these are things in population that you need to really understand, because population is tested heavily, especially in the MRQs.
All right, so we'll move on to some multiple choice questions.
Okay, we have 60 questions on the exam that are multiple choice, and it takes 1 hour. This is 50% of your exam score, and you have to be able to answer them fairly rapidly. So you're going to find some of the ones that I'm going to show you have a map or a graphic. Some of them are just words that you need to find the answer. So let's get started and see how we do.
You should see a poll pop up. Please feel free to answer the question as you go through. If the poll box is blocking the image or the question in any way, you can drag and drop it right over to the side.
Okay, very good. How did we do on this? The first MCQ asked you to look at a map showing the US farmland and which grouping of the states has roughly half of its land area in farms. If you answered C, then you're correct. All three of these states, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, have far more than half of their land area in farms. The other choices all show combined land use categories that total less than half in farms. Okay, let's go and try another one. Okay, I see that several people have answered D, and that's great. D is the correct answer. In the above model, what could be said is the main theme dictating residential land use? And obviously, this is Hoyt's sector model. See the pie-shaped wedges? Transportation arteries are the basis of Hoyt's sector model of urban land use. As cities grow, they expand outward along the main streets and highways, and workers who can afford to live farther from the CBD will build their houses in new neighborhoods, extending outwards along these transportation lines. Now, while areas of industrialization, A, and the size of the CBD, B, may contribute to the location of low-income housing, they're not the main theme of this model. Also, the proximity of rich to poor, C, is non-existent as the rich live farther away from the poor. In this model, the city expands in a radial fashion and not circular, as in the Burgess model E. Very good. Several of you got that correct. Okay, let's try the third or the next one. Oh, wonderful. Everyone got this right. Very good. Mary lives in a neighborhood with stores and offices and restaurants so close that she does not need to own a car, but she feels she has very little privacy. This is an example of B, a trade-off. Mary is trading proximity to shopping and restaurants for her privacy. Now, a win-win, A, would be a solution that does not require trade-off. An infill, C, is the creation of a small-scale housing development in a recent urban area. Leapfrog development, D, occurs when homeowners jump over more expensive land on the edges of urban areas to build on cheaper, abundant land farther out from the city. And ecologically sensitive space, E, is fragile or rare or valuable natural resources, areas that can be made into parks and wilderness and open space. So I'm glad everyone got that. That's great. Let's try number 4. Oh, wonderful. I see a lot of you got the right answer is D. Wonderful. Let's read the question. Which of the following is a pull factor affecting migration to some of the more developed countries? D is definitely a pull. It's something that draws people to a more developed country. Universal health care. All of the other answers, loss of jobs, severe famine, the rise of an authoritarian regime and religious persecution, are things that make a person want to leave a country. They're push factors of migration. So that is really wonderful. I'm glad that 3/4 of you got all that, got that correct. That's great. Let's try number 6. Or number 5, sorry.
Carol, I'm a little late in reminding you, but we're about 3:38. So we're past the 3:30 mark and cruising toward the halfway point, just so you know.
Okay, very good. Oh, wonderful. Everyone got the correct answer, B. Which of the gentrification, which of the following factors best explains the development and expansion of squatter settlements? You all got the correct answer, and that is very good. Rapid urbanization and inability of infrastructure to keep pace with the growth of megacities in developing countries. That is absolutely correct. Squatter settlements just develop and expand because many migrants come to the city for better living conditions and so on. And gentrification, urban dwellers want less congested living conditions. They zoning laws, growth of urban agriculture really have nothing at all to do with squatter settlements and how they get developed. So that's great. Let's go on to number 6 then. Okay, this, let's see. Oh, very good. I see a majority of you got the correct answer, D. We're talking about the Berlin Conference and the partition of India changed the boundaries and borders in Africa and South Asia, and are reflected on the current world map. Which of the following describes the type of political border that resulted from these events? And it's obviously D, superimposed boundaries forced on existing boundaries, as we saw occurred in the partition of India and the division of Africa by the colonial powers of Europe. Okay, let's keep rolling. We're doing great. Oh, this is good, a photo. Okay. Okay, everyone got this. This is great. C is the correct answer, agglomeration effects. And agglomeration effects are shown because similar high dollar retail stores locate near each other in the shopping plazas. Here we see a J. Crew's, I think a Coach store. They take advantage of shoppers desiring higher end designer merchandise. And obviously, this has nothing to do with growth poles. Spread effects are negative impacts. Backwash effects are positive trickle down caused by industry location decisions. And creative destruction is the reinvestment of funds in new profitable ventures instead of older, less profitable ones. Well, let's keep going. Let's look at number 8. Okay, the correct answer is D. And I see most of you got that. That's awesome. Monoculture. We could see from the map that winter wheat and other grain farming are a specialized agricultural activity where farmers grow one crop for commercial markets. And that is obvious from the map as we look at the coloration and the map key. So this is an example of a multiple choice where you're going to have to quickly look at the map keys, see what is on the map, and make a quick decision. Very good. Okay, let's look at number 9. We're almost done with our samples. Oh, we have 3 different answers given here. Okay, the correct answer is B. A population pyramid or age sex structure shows all the following information about a country's population except B. It does not show the actual population of a country in numbers, okay? That is found in census data, not in the population pyramid. All we can predict is all that the population pyramid gives us is a predictive visual of what the country's future social spending needs will be for the very old and the very young. Okay, let's move on to the next multiple choice. And I believe this is the last one. Oh, evenly divided between C and D. Okay. Okay. D is the correct answer. Rectangular land survey system was introduced after the US gained independence. And the long lot system is, of course, the French and Spanish settlers in North America used that. The B was the New England village that the English settlers on the Atlantic seaboard used, and the meets and bounds was C. And Pennsylvania southward is where these land grants were allocated, and they would often use trees even in the boundaries of a meets and bounds system. And the agricultural village is something that we see in the communal farming villages of the Mormons and Canadian Mennonites, for example. Okay, well, you did very well. And in the multiple choice, you saw some examples of using one stimulus, two stimulus, and no stimulus. Let's look quickly at some free response questions, and you'll have an hour and 15 minutes to do these, and they result in 50% of your exam score. So we're just going to quickly look and see what we would have in the first one. And this is a sample of no prompt. The first FRQ has no prompt. And you'll see you're asked, let's just look at the verbs quickly. To define, to identify, explain, describe, describe, describe. So going back to where you remember the slide was that we defined the verbs and what they want. Let's just look at that and see, okay, to define something, just give the definition. Plantation agriculture is, and then explain it. Identify, you also want to define and maybe give a feature. Explain, give the answer, and then why. So you see, it's very simple. And you just carefully want to analyze the verb and then write what you believe is the most important information they're asking. And you can only, you can usually one sentence, one good meaty sentence will do it. Sometimes when you explain, you need two good sentences, but you don't have to write a whole paragraph. Just make sure you label A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay, let's look at the second sample FRQ where we have one prompt. Here we're given a visual, we're given a photograph. And again, we are asked to identify. C asks for you to identify 3 benefits. And D asks to explain a process. So you want to talk about the process, what it is, and then why it is. And E asks you to describe, F describe, and G explain. So you might have to do a little more writing on this, but you have to quickly look at the photo and then start answering the questions based on that information. And let's look at the last FRQ. This will be the one with 3 prompts or 2 prompts. And you will see that you have a map and then you will have a graph or a chart. Again, A is usually defined. It's usually a quick point. You just have to look and see, okay, poverty. Poverty is the correct answer because both the graph and the map are talking about child poverty. Then you identify for B, you describe for C, identify, explain, explain, explain. Once again, know how what is expected when you explain. Give an answer and then why. Continue it on. Explain it. Okay, well, that's great. Now we've looked at all of the test questions that we have for you. And we don't need to go through that, I don't think.
Okay, well, thanks, Carol. That was terrific stuff. I will step in here for a couple of minutes just to show you guys our online course that you will now have access to between now and the test. Most important thing, if you could just take a minute to take a picture or jot down the URL and the access code. Give you a few seconds to do so. It's a really simple process. Just go to that URL, AP, 5 steps APHG, enter the access code, and you're in. Whoop, my bad. What I'm going to do is pivot here and show you guys. Are you seeing that, Carol? The opening page with 64 on here?
Yes, sort
Okay.
of. Yep.
All right, so I've skipped, just for the sake of brevity, I've skipped the login procedure because I'm already in. This, when you first come in, it'll ask you for your name and email address, and you'll be in. You will not get any spam. You're not going to get anything from us. Don't worry about it. You'll get a total of 1 verification email that just says, here's sort of acknowledging that you signed up for the McGraw-Hill cross-platform course. The first thing you'll see when you get in, this is your dashboard as a student. Do you know offhand, Dr. Gillespie, what the date of the test is this year?
It is May the 4th.
May 4th.
Mm-hmm.
First thing it's going to ask you to do is put in your test date. And there you have it. You've got 57 days until test day. It's coming up. So every time you come back in here, that'll update. Every time between now and May 4th, you come back in, the first thing you'll see is the amount of study days you have left. I will tell you, I'll run through this and the benefits of this in 5 or 10 minutes with you. The best way to learn everything we have to offer in here is just to take the code and go spend some time in here yourself. I won't hit on everything, but it's a really robust and useful study tool. Teachers out there, please feel free to share this with your colleagues and with all of your students. Let's make sure we get this out there because it's a great tool. So the dashboard we went over, it'll update as you go along. I didn't do anything in here today, so my study plan progress is still at 1%. And my knowledge goal is 0 out of 21 because I've done nothing. But you'll see kind of a cool piece about this is there'll be a percentile rank that'll compare you to other users that are in the study tool, your average score, how many you're getting right, and your average score on the practice test. This will automatically populate as you run through the course. You can concentrate on your strengths and weaknesses. And just give you basically an overview. There's some fun things up here. You could awards that you can unlock and things, and then there's some like I said, poke around in it and you'll see everything that you've got in here that will be useful. The study plan is basically everything that's in your 5 steps to a 5 guide. it's each thing is broken down by the same way that the chapters are done. You want to get into agricultural and rural land use patterns and processes. You go in, there's a bunch of words, a summary of the chapter, and as you go through, you rate yourself, your confidence in that subject. So if you're rating yourself consistently high, it's sort of self-guided that way, that the next time you come back, you will see where you've rated yourself low, medium, and high. You'd figure if you're rating yourself high in certain subjects, the next time you come back in, you won't have to go back in there. You already know it. If it's stuff that you've ranked yourself low, you know that you're probably telling yourself, come back, give this a second look. There's games, a number of games in here, which are just basic flashcard based games. Card Hunter, Card Coupler, Sudden Death. They're kind of fun ways to go through some of the core material that you'll need to learn. If you were on the bus and you want to spend a few minutes going over in a sort of gamified way, it's a good way to do it. There's this quick discussion panel where people will go in and share information on, hey, I thought that number 19 on test 2, did you guys think that B was the answer? I thought that it was C, and why? There's not much that happens in here, but there is some interesting intel that you might get into. Again, the lesson plan broken down in a different way. This one's a little bit more user-friendly, broken down into, the major knowledge that you'll need, thinking geographically, population, cultural patterns. Again, it's just sort of an easier way to look at all the main topics that you're getting into that you need to review before the exam. The flashcards are really cool. Again, if you're on the bus or in a way, one of the good things about the platform is that if you start it at home or on your laptop or in school, and you do 10 questions or you run through the first 50 flashcards, and then you get on the bus and you pop on your phone, it's going to pick up where you left off, right? It's going to follow you no matter what, no matter where you go. You don't have to start from scratch. It's going to remember where you were no matter which platform you're using. So acculturation, I'm not too sure about that one. I'm checking the definition. And did you get it right? I'm going to say no, because then that way the next time, this one's easy. I think I know this one. Agribusiness, I got it incorrect before, but this time I know I got it right. I'm going to grade myself yes. So again, with the flashcards, there's a lot of them, great for quick study. And when you self-grade yourself, the ones that you don't get right will pop up for you the next time you come back. The ones that you grade right won't. You've got some great practice. Probably the two most important things that as students you'll find between now and May will be the practice sessions and the sample test. The practice questions are broken down by category, and I've answered a couple of these before, but you want to go into cities, which Dr. Gillespie was really telling you that is an important thing that will show up. Pop in there, and you want to practice the category. You can either review the answers while you go through, or not, do it in test mode and turn it off so you can wait until the end. What do we got here? An edge city could have any of the following attributes except an edge city: more jobs than bedroom, being commonly perceived as a single place. Okay, I'm gonna say, what do you think, Carol? What's the answer? I'm gonna guess.
Oh, I wasn't even looking. An edge city could have any of the following.
Okay, well, I got it wrong. Good thing I'm not taking the test in May. And then the quick, easy way to get through all of these questions as you get through, get closer to test day. And perhaps the most valuable thing will be fully timed practice, full-length tests. You've got a diagnostic test up front and 3 full-length practice tests. I'm not going to do them now, obviously, but this will give you a lot of teachers will tell you a really important thing to do as you're heading toward May is to sit and take at least one, if not more, full-length practice test. Make sure you're sitting for the right amount of time, you're answering the right amount of questions. I think we said it was 60 questions. Doing those FRQs, really knowing exactly how much time you have in the 2 hours and 15 minutes, dedicating yourself to that time, and then at the end, getting your score and seeing where you are. A really valuable tool that will be good as you head towards essay. And that's just a quick review, a really brief overview of the benefits of this thing. As I said earlier, let me go back to where I was. If you want to quickly, can you see that? Quickly take a picture, write it down. There's your URL and your access code to get you what you need to get everybody. And please do invite your friends, anyone that's working toward the AP Human Geography exam in May. Tell them about this, have them use it. We'd love to have them come check it out. All right, back to you, Carol. Is there anything you want to see if there's any questions out there? Does anyone online have any questions?
Sure. Any questions at all?
Don't be shy. I don't see anything in the chat yet or in the Q&A features. All right, well, maybe we'll give it a few more seconds, but if we don't, we're just past the hour mark. So we have plenty of time if there are any questions. If not, I think we're ready to, unless there's anything you wanted to share at the end, Carol, we could, whoops.
I just want to say with the FRQs that you do have 3. So you have about, I'd say about 20 minutes to write each one. And they're not essays as they used to be. So, you can pretty quickly go from A to G and realize that A is going to be a kind of a quick answer, usually a definition or an identify. So you won't waste a lot of time putting that down, but know that by the time you get down to G, you're probably going to have to explain, and it'll take a little more thought because it's a sequential type of asking questions and building up to a higher level of knowledge. And so try and get A and B in there as quick as you can, and then you can go ahead and think a little longer. But you do have 20 minutes approximately, and you'll find that one FRQ you'll know a lot about, and you may be kind of excited about putting that information down. Don't take too much time to do that, though, because you will have an FRQ that you really have to stop and think, and maybe the concepts are not coming up as clearly in your memory. So try and ration your time out. You can have a watch, and there'll be a clock on the wall. So just be careful. No smartwatches, though. Okay. But just keep your eye on the clock and realize how much time you have to complete that section.
All right, the final screen just has the URL here. We call it a bit.ly. Take a picture of that, share that with your friends. It will be, that's where the recording for today's session will live. It should be posted no later than tomorrow. So feel free, invite your friends. If you're a teacher, invite your fellow educators or your students. Let's get this thing out there and help share it with the students and teachers that are preparing for this test. Aside from that, I think that's it. I think we can call it. Any final thoughts?
Thank you for joining us.
Yep. If there's nothing else,
good luck on the exam.
Good luck, everybody, and we'll call it. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. Good luck.